Greetings, Marvel Avengers Alliance Redux fans. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about the work that Goofy is doing for the next Marvel Avengers Alliance Redux beta. So we have on my left the list of things that he's going to be working on with a couple of explanations of the stats that you'll see. And on the right, we have my extremely talented girlfriend's work done in Blender, as she's begun experimenting with Blender lately, doing art. So I figured I'd pull some of that up as I gracefully try to yank my cat back over here from getting behind the monitors. Stupid little shitlord. Okay, so now that he's walking away, having been sufficiently stymied in his quest to get behind the monitor, let's go ahead and get going. Before we begin, there are two questions that I'm going to answer before anybody asks them. One of them you'll probably already know. No, it is not coming for mobile. Do not ask about it for iOS. Do not ask about it for Android. Stop. It's not going to happen, okay? We are focused on a Flash-based version that is going to be more specifically for Windows because it's packaged with an exe. However, other operating systems like Linux and Macs may be able to run them if you have utility that allows you to play the .swf file, which is a Shockwave Flash file. Also, the other question is, no, there is not a timeline for when the next beta will be out. Goofy's dealing with quite a bit right now. He's been putting in a tremendous amount of work for this. However, there is no date, there is no time frame that I can give you. It's not just a matter of no date like Tuesday of next week. It's also a timeline that I can't give you. I can't say a week, a day, a month. It's not that I know and don't want to, it's just we're not at that stage quite yet. However, this is what we're going to be looking forward to in the next beta. For the current beta, which is beta 2, and the links will be down below along with Discord and Facebook, you can see me stream beta 2 every day from 3 to 4 Eastern time over on my Twitch channel. I screwed up Monday, slept through it by mistake. And I may be not able to stream a few days this week. However, for the most part, Monday through Friday, I do get to play Marvel Avengers Alliance Redux over on Twitch. It's been a lot of fun doing it. We've put the game through its absolute paces. By doing it that way, it's going through the ringer. We've been working with uniforms and multiple team-ups, different agent gear. We've come up with some ideas on the stream, like the potential endgame PvE scenario from a few videos back, where we talked about the Nexus of Realities, which would test your roster similar to a Shadowlands in Marvel Future Fight, or Dark Dimension in Marvel Strike Force, or War in Marvel Strike Force, except specifically PvE. It was an idea that we hashed out on the stream and everything. We also get to talk about characters we'd like to see, uniforms we'd like to see for characters, so definitely come by the stream if you can. It's been a blast in the 2 or 3 weeks so far that I've been doing it pretty consistently. So, a X by the major topic says that Goofy has already fulfilled that request and done it. A X by a minor topic means that just a piece of that particular topic was done, but not the full thing. So far he has a X for deleting player slots. He also wants to work on a full screen option and the ability to mute sound effects and music. Now that was of course in the Facebook version. Me personally, I wished the game on the Facebook version would have given us volume sliders. The reason why, and I've talked about this on the stream a few times, is due to the fact that you could not mess with the music and the sound effects. You either had it fully on or fully off by muting it. If you played around with the volume slider, you're playing around with the volume slider for Chrome or Firefox, the actual Windows volume slider for the whole app. And I never liked that. Like, in the beginning, I used to listen to the music and the sound effects all the time, but then they got, like, super loud and jacked up, and it was no longer pleasant to listen to. Now, later on, towards the very, very end, Facebook came out with that game app where you could play a bunch of your Facebook games on a Windows exe installable and everything, and you were able to play around with that because you could adjust the volume of that app, and then things were good. And it was nice to bring the sound back. For me, when I started playing Goofy's Alpha, hearing that music was a huge nostalgia hit, because it wasn't just the 2 years, 2016 and 2018, of not having that music in my life, but it was also the years where I was playing the game with it off because it was too loud. I would not ask Goofy to do a volume slider in the game, as it sounds like it could be extreme code that is not in the game currently, and not knowing how easy that would be to add, that's not something I want to put on his plate. It is definitely something that hopefully down the road could potentially, well, actually it doesn't need to show up, because when you're running Marvel Avengers Alliance Redux, it's its own exe, and you can just adjust the volume on the Windows software panel for the entirety of the game. You can't, everything will be at that volume, whether it be sound or music. You're not going to have an individual slider, but at least you can still have things at a reasonable level and not super jacked up the way they were in like 2015, 2016 and everything. He's working on a Christmas scene, which we know could be a potential patch to the game around the holidays. I don't know how long Playdom would run it for. My guess is maybe Thanksgiving to New Year's, I think, would be appropriate for a Christmas or holiday scene, depending upon what you celebrate at that time of year. Display every time Mission 5 is unlocked until Mission 1 of the next chapter is unlocked. Not too sure what he's saying there. I think he's... Yeah, I'm not too sure what he's saying there. Don't know what an RO is. By jets. 1 combat per jet. Bay number waiting. Marked as staffing -1. Upgrade jets bay to * jet level wait. Mark sent heroes as busy. So he has accomplished that if you've put a individual on a jet, that they show up as busy on your roster. Can't send while buying or upgrading. Add a picture pop-up when sent with a counter and done with complete. Add flying animations if you remember the jets did take off from the helicarrier. He has completed mission selecting based on jet level to maybe, let's see, okay, that helps a little bit. Based on jet level, 2 pages, character selection pop-up, limit available based on busy or on team. So I think that is somebody's availability when you're looking at them in the roster, if they are occupied as being on a jet. And I'm not too sure what the on the team is on that one. Collect and resend pop-up on click. That's going to be a quality of life thing that is added to the game, because if you remember, for quite some time, the Marvel Avengers Alliance, you had to collect everything and then pick 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes. So there were people who used an app called Leet Hacks back in the day that I never ran. Even though Leet Hacks was fairly innocuous, I was always against it, even if it was just a matter of like a lot of PvE related things, like a collect all button for your friends, your friend agents. easy jet management and everything. Maybe a script that would automatically take your 20 minutes and resend them at 20 minutes without you being around, because we all know 20 minutes was the best one for experience and everything. I do believe we are going to get a 8-hour timer added to the jets, and it's going to use one of the new locations that we've said is a city in the game in terms of the jet timers. If you remember, we had 6-hour timers and then we had 12. Well, if you were a normal person who slept and you did a 6-hour, you had 2 hours of wasted time. If you were a normal person who did 8 hours but you picked a 12, you essentially woke up and then had up to about 4 hours of just waiting around to start your jet rotation. So probably what a lot of people did is pick 6 and then suffer 2 hours. I mean, it makes sense. You're either going to miss 2 hours worth of stuff, or you're just going to wait around for 4 hours and potentially not have somebody available to you that you need. So, yeah. And I feel like Dr. Evil over here, because Arthas is on my lap and I'm petting him like a Mr. Bigglesworth. He's a good buddy. Alright, so research is done. The whole category of research is done there, of adding timers, making the text non-selectable. So right now you can actually edit some of the display fields in research. Show remaining time in battles. Add descriptions, research complete pop-up, and not too sure what finish limiting is. Maybe the availability of research based on what you've done, and limit things that you are not allowed to get into quite yet. Working on the store, loading data, getting buttons working in the store, switching items, limit by the universal start date of the current mission, completed research, updating info, limiters and sorters, and allowing selling. So, selling was a rare thing that occurred in Marvel Avengers Alliance, but you could do it if you were pressed, where you could sell the gear in your inventory if you needed to. It probably was a very rare thing for people to need to do it, but there were maybe some times where you were running low on silver or just wanted to neaten things up so you could sell. The game showed you that you never wanted to trash something that was unique and irreplaceable, because of course reforging, and then you never know what kind of a team shows up later on down the line that makes use of a piece of gear that's been collecting dust in your inventory. Prime example, me as being part of the Marvel Avengers Alliance beta back in 2012, I got the X-Play gadget, which eventually could have been useful during the Hugin's Eye era, when people were dodging so many melee attacks. You could have used that X-Play gadget to make it so that they couldn't dodge. Now, it had a huge cooldown and there were better things for it, but I mean, that thing that was crusty as hell since my beta access did have some use if I wanted it to. Inventory control, create a solid, not easily interpreted ICS, not inventory control system, I guess. Adding and removing items, moving items, sorting items. Team management, training, need to set up a timer. Hero leveling, coming soon for characters that may be coming probably in like a patch, where you, let's say you have an August patch that says coming soon for somebody that'll be around in like September. Limiting costumes based on the start time, hiding AISOs and EISOs until unlocked. That's fairly legitimate because that was the thing in the game. Those of us who played until the end might be so used to EISOs and AISOs being available, but we forget that there was a period of time in the game when they weren't, and you had to live through that time of earning them or start, some point afterwards. Training bays, hide bay 2 until mission 171 is unlocked. ISOs, hide until the first ISO research is complete. the ability to buy and use. ISOs are destroyed when replaced. That's a thing. Remember that if you had one of the old, weaker chunky fats on somebody, and then you placed in a good spiky one, you consumed the old chunky fat. Whereas like in Marvel Future Fight, the consume is a default, but you had the ability to swap if you want to pay. I hope the if you want to pay option is never really added. I just think it's something you have to live with in terms of restructuring. Like if you're rebuilding a character who was formerly a little bit defensive and now you want to make him more offensive, I don't think we should really ever have the option to pay a currency to keep the ISOs that were equipped. That's just one of those first world struggles that you're going to have for the game, and I'm okay in that. A&E go back, A ISOs and E ISOs go back to inventory, character pop-ups, action pop-ups, hero level pop-ups, hero recruit pop-ups. Tasks, up to 4, and the briefcase show on FD. So that's that left side of the HUD where it would show you the tasks that you're on. And 4 is what he's looking as the maximum for it. Task briefcase opens all current tasks display. So that's like hitting your log or your quest book in an MMO or an RPG, like World of Warcraft, hitting L and seeing all the current quests that you're in. Task in or out of BC opens task info, the briefcase. Get the counters working, unlock missions based on tasks. Not really too sure if we ever dealt with that or not. Unlocking them. Well, that could also be part of the new features. So when covert ops show up and when the one-shots, which is a new feature, show up, you want to unlock it when you're tasked to go into it. So yeah, that makes sense. Mission select. Only can go to unlock chapters and missions. Okay, yeah, that's a good check. Season 3 just says coming soon for now. Yep, that makes sense. Spec Ops says coming soon until 171 is unlocked. Only clickable when 163 is unlocked. Season 2 is only clickable when 112.1 is unlocked. Okay, again, makes sense there. Chapter info, need the reward images. Mission info with high scores. Season 2-3 Spec Ops sliders. Mission XML loading. The daily spin. Every 50 battles a jet appears on the helicarrier using a roulette. Lockboxes owned, unlocked, open screen with a duplicate limiter. So that is sometimes what's called a pity timer. A lot of games that have a free-to-play element in them now have what's called a pity timer. Hearthstone has it, and World of Warcraft had it for the Legendaries and Legion, where the more time that you went without getting something big, the more your percentage of gaining something big would grow. So, if in Hearthstone you have not pulled a legendary card in 20 packs, your next pack might be a 5% boost to get it, and then maybe a 10, and then maybe a 20. You have an escalating boost to the game saying, hey, I kind of feel bad for you, so here's something. So this duplicate limiter is a little bit like that. Open the pop-up, collection display. For allies, the collect all pop-up, tinted icons when not collectible, like grayed out. 2 secret allies that are going to get added later. So now, if you remember correctly, your allies, of course, were people that you had to add to Facebook first, and then you had 50 allies that you added to your game for the distress calls and everything. Well, you're not going to have that here because you won't have real human players for that. So we are designing adjacent characters to the game that could be added. So for example, this isn't a giveaway. You can see it on the stream and the beta videos all the time. J. Jonah Jameson. He's not playable, but clearly he's adjacent to Spider-Man. getting deploys working with a timer, adding 2 birds and 3 of a kind distinguishers, so that's combat. Adding combat pop-ups, removing mini from boss battle if beat, so remember certain missions you could fight a boss along with a mini boss if you didn't do the mini boss separate. So he's working on the code to get rid of that mini boss from the boss battle if you beat it individually. Get done button working without having to re-enter. Make sure all battles are playable and mission path can't be blocked. So this was occasionally a bug that would sometimes show up in the original version of the game, where you could accidentally on some missions screw yourself out of the mission progressing because you did combat in an odd way that a trigger wouldn't fire. So let's say if all of the missions or all of the combat in a map opens up after doing 2 little combats in a medium, or 2 weak combats, 2 greens and like a yellow, but somehow you wound up doing 2 yellows and a green and you didn't hit the right trigger, then maybe the end half of the map never opens up, you can never do your battles, and it's shot, you have to restart it. It was rare, but I do remember it happening sometimes. Mr. Bigglesworth cat again. Completing the mission path XML for all missions, completing the mission path XML and the missing XMLs for the Spec Ops. We are still looking for the XMLs for Spec Ops 1 through 18. I have reached out on Facebook to people, but perhaps this video can reach a deeper audience. If anybody still has an Android device that had Marvel Avengers Alliance installed on it, but never uninstalled. I have to be super clear about this. You had to have had it installed when the Android version of the game existed, and then never removed it. It doesn't matter if you can find the APK now. That's not the issue. We can do that. We found it. The issue is the APK is designed to be a Trojan horse in terms of the Android operating system. You get the APK from a Play Store or an alternate location, and then what it would do is it would go, okay Android, I've installed, you've tapped on me, let me go out to the server and start pulling down the data. This way the installation file is small and it downloads it later on when you ask it to. The thing is, nobody's home. The APK picks up the phone and dials, hey Playdom. The Playdom server doesn't exist anymore to answer, so you can't pull the data, the cache data, the images, all of that. But if people have a device, potentially even an iOS device, but more hopefully Android, if somebody has an Android device that still has Marvel Avengers Alliance 1, not 2, 1 installed, and it was never uninstalled, you may have something that could really help us out, because you may have some cache data that is worth its weight in gold. But it's a very limited circumstance that we're looking for here. Again, you had to have had it installed when the game was still downloadable, you had to have run it, and you had to have never uninstalled it, because then the cache is likely gone. There are 2 directories to look at. It's Android Data and Android OBB, but you have to fulfill those other requirements first. So, changing the music based on what chapter you're on, mission scores, the agent leveling up, showing completed tasks, group bosses when available, 1 battle playable per ally, don't beat it, it disappears, should have plenty of allies by Spec Ops 8, character selecting, sorting by XP needed, and training available. Remember, they were sorts that were available, even though not a lot of people really ever sorted their roster beyond standard, but you could. Limit based on the whitelist, so that means like if you click blasters, that you can sort by all the blasters that need experience or training. Adding the agent if required and not present. That's maybe a combat flag that forces the agent to be there if it is definitely an agent mission and not like a daily that doesn't use the agent. Change in difficulty display for the agent. Change weapon and appearance based on equipped items and design selected. So in the stream we talk about the female agent essentially has 3 weapons equipped at once. It's a needle gun, an Uzi, and a katana are all in the hand, and if it is a male agent, it's just a gadget. No matter what the first weapon is, it's still a gadget, because he hasn't worked on that yet. So he's saying he's working on it, adding in a weapon swap animation so that if your needle gun is your first weapon, but you're going to use the katana, that it swaps to the katana for the swing, and then swaps back to the needle gun. Weapon slot unlocking, because remember we did eventually get up to 5, but it was only 4 for a long time. Left and right aligning, red and blue backgrounds, all buttons get a click sound, over and out size adjustment and sound. Text is based on the locale string for different languages, so that if you are playing the Portuguese version of it, you get Portuguese text and not English, American English. The roulettes and the galas, which is short for the gallery, that is, you know, the 9 boxes and everything. Setting the pictures for those, adding it to inventory when you win the item, and displaying a pop-up after a boss or epic that gives you, of course, the roulette. So, that is the stuff that Goofy has been working on and has achieved a number of these items for the next beta. I can tell you combat is a big thing on this. If you go back to some of the earlier alphas, combat was more robust, but at the same time, a little bit screwed up. Your agent and heroes were often outmatched by the enemy because you had no modifiers. You were level 1, any golden weapon you were using was modified by nothing because you were level 1. You had no ISOs. Your abilities were all flat, so most often the enemies were way stronger than you because you were not tuned properly. Well, that's been fixed in beta 2, but we have then lost like some of the buffs and debuffs and tooltips and everything, so this next beta should definitely bring some of those things back and into a working order, so that, you know, if Spider-Man does a particular ability, the enemy's going to get webbed on them, and there'll be a debuff there. So, of course, one of the big things would be the ability to pick an ability, change your mind, pick another ability, and have that be the one that's used instead of the one that you first clicked on. That is a problem I run into in the streams, where I accidentally pick what is a buff, and I'm like, oh, I know buffs aren't working, this may crash it, and then I go to pick a regular action ability, but it still does the buff, or the debuff. So, it's going to be a pretty hefty beta when it comes out. I think we're definitely all looking forward to it. You will see announcements in Discord and Facebook, and of course here on the channel. And you'll definitely see me playing a good chunk of it for a video, and then that'll be the build that I'll be using on the streams. So, again, not going to be a mobile version of this, so don't worry about it. We don't have a timer on when the next beta will come out, or a date, or a time. We probably have a century, we probably have a year. I can't even say that we have a month. There is no guarantee that I can make that this will come out in July, but the next beta, yeah, we could say that will be 2020, obviously. And then from there, it depends on how much work it takes to get it into a fully playable client, and what is fully playable, like where is that definition? You could say fully playable is everything up to Season 1, Chapter 6 works. You know, that's a lot of time. That will take you some time to do that, but maybe everything after 6 is still being worked on. You know, it all depends. If the community is super thirsty at the time, and everything is available up to, let's say, chapter 6, then you might get like a limited release or a release candidate coming out, and then another patch will add in everything else. I don't really know how Goofy's going to plan it, but I do know this has been his big checklist of to-do things that he's been working on for a while. So, hope you enjoyed the video. I know this one isn't particularly action, but if you are looking for Redux action, just come by the stream Monday through Friday, 3 to 4 Eastern Time. We do tend to go over a little bit, and we don't just play Redux, we also will wander over to other Marvel games that are available now, like Future Fight and Strike Force and Super War, discussing the new things that happen there, like new characters and uniforms. And we also wander into games that are like Marvel Avengers Alliance, even if they aren't a Marvel game. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and this was fun making it. It was fun seeing the behind-the-scenes work on, you know, essentially Goofy's brain on paper over here. And hopefully, I'll have a new version at some point in the near future that I can run for you guys here on YouTube, and then start running it on the stream to build up a little hype for it, and then it'll have, hopefully, a public beta. Thanks for stopping by, guys. Have a good one.